So yesterday would be the 1 year anniversary since all of my tools were taken at the renovation house. I keep trying to figure out how to tell this story in, some interesting way, and I'm just stuck because it was so impactful. So I'm just going to tell it, and I hope you stick around for the whole thing. I had been careful to make sure that my tools were staying away from the windows because we weren't living there. So it was a target potentially, being an empty house overnight. But we woke up one morning to a text from our right next door neighbor that their car had been stolen overnight. We immediately searched our entire property, double checked our cars were here, our shed was not broken into, but our renovation house was right around the corner. And again, it was empty. It was a prime target if the robbers had made it around that way in the neighborhood. So this was before taking the kids to school, so all of us piled in the car immediately, drove around the corner, and James and I started investigating the house. Sitting out on the front lawn was a wagon that I had had inside to help move materials around, and a blanket that had been on top of my tools. So I knew immediately that things had not been safe inside the house. Someone had been in there and likely everything was gone. The kids stayed in the car, James and I went inside, and sure enough, the back slider had been just jimmied open. Those aren't hard to break into. And upstairs, all of my tools were gone, every single one. The night before, I had been so careful to tidy everything up into a closet that was upstairs in one of the bedrooms because we were getting ready to do flooring. And because I had tidied up, everything was in its rolly case and in bags and easy to carry out. And they just packed it out in the middle of the night. As the neighbors started talking that morning, we called the police immediately. Our next door neighbor called the police. Another person in the neighborhood had called the police as well because this person, or people, or a couple, had been prowling around the neighborhood and checking into people's cars to see what they could just lift out of people's cars, not necessarily breaking into anyone's houses. So some of the neighbors' Ring cameras caught this person walking around, and they had already called the cops at 2 o'clock in the morning. After they'd called the cops, this person who saw that a police officer was coming into the neighborhood ducked into our house because it was obvious that it was empty and that no one was in there. Based on the footage from the across the street neighbor's house, they had great outside cameras. This person was in our house for 45 minutes and had plenty of time to collect up whatever they wanted and take it out of the house with them. During that time, the officer had looped the neighborhood, but there was nothing that they could tell was suspicious. They couldn't see this person through the windows, and they had no other reason to believe that this person was anywhere else, and they couldn't find them walking around. We filed a report with the police department and made a list of all the tools that we knew were taken. Based on the information that we had gotten from other people, our neighbors and such, that this was not, our house was targeted, even though it could have been, being an empty renovation house, but that literally it was a opportunity. The person ducked into there trying to hide from the officer looping the neighborhood and came across a jackpot. Talking with the officer, one of the first questions he had after we did our walkthrough and all of that was, "Do you have a list of your serial numbers?" And I said, "No, I do not. That had not even crossed my mind as something I should have done to protect myself." So all of my DeWalt battery-powered tools were gone, and no way to trace them back to me if they were ever found at a pawn shop, on Facebook Marketplace, nothing. They were gone. Luckily, my batteries had been at my house charging overnight, so those were not gone. That was helpful when I needed to replace the tools, but still extremely heartbreaking. My entire toolbox with all those little things that you don't realize you're missing until the moment comes that you need to use a wrench, use a screwdriver, any of those. Every single little tool of mine that had been in my tool bucket, in my toolboxes, in any of the bags, anything we'd collected to do the little projects, all of it was gone. And we had to continue the project. So I went to Lowe's later that day and collected up the absolute basics. Tape measure, speed square, Sharpies, pencils, a bucket, a wrench set, a screwdriver set, all of that. And the whole time as I'm walking through, I'm just on the verge of tears because this just reminded me of all the little things that I was missing and how violating it was to have all that stuff taken. Our friends and family really stepped it up and helped replace as much as we needed to be able to finish the project. Luckily, we were close to the end. so we didn't need a ton of things, but some of those power tools were really crucial for the last steps that we needed. So my brother and sister-in-law bought me a complete replacement set of 4 of the tools, which was incredible. Other friends and family lent us any of the tools that we needed and came in as extra hands to make sure that we could finish. We literally were 3 weeks away from finishing the project, and luckily we were that far into the project and nothing that we had been working on had been damaged. None of the materials were taken, none of the hard work we'd already put in, just tools. So what did I learn and what can I share with you so that you can hopefully protect yourself and your materials, your tools, your special belongings? Mark things with your name, engrave them, mark them with a Sharpie covered in clear nail polish, and write down those serial numbers. So that if something like that is ever taken of yours, you have a list of what it is and it can hopefully be traced back to you quicker. We then set up on all of the sliders little alarms that were so incredibly loud. And we told the neighbors, we're like, if you hear this sound, here's our number, give us a call and call 911. Because this is our way of protecting. We can't put other things here. We don't have a Wi-Fi there. We couldn't put Blink or Ring cameras. This was one way that we could protect it. We also installed a stealth cam, a trail cam, that goes like we put on the fence post and uses the cellular network and doesn't need Wi-Fi. Hunters will use it out on the trails to track where animals are. So we used that in order to be able to send us pictures if there was anyone that was coming onto the property when we were not expecting it. Bonus, we got some pretty cool little footage clips from that as we finished the rest of the project of little things of us doing outside parts of the project that was really fun. Someday I want to do another big renovation like that, and I will 100% be getting a job box. So any tools that need to stay on site can be locked away and not taken if someone were to break in. And the last big thing I learned was just how invaluable the community is. Our friends and family that we've built and cultivated those bonds with were there immediately as support and as help. Whether it was extra hands to get the projects done because we lost a bit of time, or to help lend tools or take care of the kids or do whatever we needed in order to help make sure that that finished successfully, even with that massive hiccup. Go catch up on the other parts of the house, and I hope you're enjoying the story as much as I enjoyed doing the hard work and pulling it all together. It's a really cool experience, and I think it's worth sharing. So let me know what you think too.